Hmm? Hmm?
Okay. मी इंजेक्शन असं 2 मिनिट टिकू शकत नाही. आणि इंग्लिश कॉम्बिनेशन होतं आमचे मिनिमम ॲक्सेंट होतो. आणि इसका टर्मिनल का सी
Mr. Jain, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
I think all of us are on mute. I would
Okay.
request Ekta to start, and that's why you're not able to hear. You haven't started yet. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Arup. Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes. Hi, good afternoon.
Great. Great.
Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So on behalf myself, Ekta Dubey, before I start, am I loud and clear to everyone? Just wanted to recheck.
Very much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So hello all, a very good afternoon. Myself, Ekta Dubey, and on behalf of the Brinalytics team and our partner PTC and Greenwave, we welcome you all on our executive roundtable discussion, which is digitalization in manufacturing, first time right. Before I start this interesting roundtable, there are few guidelines to my audiences. Please adhere to. I request all the audience to be on mute when the speakers are taking the session or they're sharing their insights. We will definitely encourage this Q&A after this roundtable or during the session in the chat box where speaker or the moderator will address your questions. The guidelines are you need to raise your hands, unmute yourself on your video and introduce yourself and put your question to our panel. To start with, I would first like to introduce our title partners, starting with PTC. PTC enables global manufacturers to realize double-digit impact with software solutions that enable them to accelerate product and service innovation, improve operational efficiency, and increase workforce productivity. Arup, in any case, I have a breakdown or, if you see I'm not clear, please let me know. Yeah.
Sure, Ekta, go ahead.
Okay. Introducing another partner from Greenwave. Greenwave is an innovation-driven enterprise focused on smart manufacturing and IIoT solutions. Greenwave partners with manufacturers worldwide to enable them in their journey of digitalizing their manufacturing footprint. Today, we'll hear interesting insights coming on from our partners as plus wonderful set of thought leaders who will share their interesting insights on digitalization that's happening on the manufacturing front. To start with, I would first like to invite Mr. Navdeep Thakur. He's a regional manager, digital transformation with PTC, to share his views on the subject. Thank you, Navdeep, for joining. Over to you.
Hi, thank you, Ekta.
Hi, Navdeep. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Arup,
I made you the co-host.
I thought you would.
Yeah, Navdeep, you can go ahead and introduce PTC. If you want to share some few slides, there's a share screen button that's enabled for you as well.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Arup. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Navdeep Jakhar. I'm the Regional Manager, Digital Transformation for PTC for North and East India. Over the past year, I've been looking at the PTC portfolio, particularly in the segment of industrial IoT and augmented reality, or the Industry 4.0 technologies, as we call it. Now, just a brief about PTC. PTC has been in the manufacturing domain for over the last 35 years. It started off as a company based out of Boston, USA, and has over 6,500 employees currently all over the world. So we have been leaders in the computer-aided design and product lifecycle management segment over the past many years. In India, we have 3 offices. Our headquarters is in Bangalore. Our main R&D offices, which caters to the whole world, is situated out of Pune, and our third office is in Gurgaon, where I'm based out of. So today's session is all about, how do we enable digital transformation and manufacturing? What are the key, things that we have seen, particularly from our side in the CPG industry specifically? What are the various, factors that enable companies to successfully employ digital transformation initiatives? What are the drivers for value that enable such digital transformations, and subsequently, what are some of the hurdles that companies do face, and how do they overcome it? So to begin with, I would just like to share a couple of figures with you. And this is something that came out of the manufacturing surveys done by companies like McKinsey and BCG. In the last 2 to 3 years, particularly with the advent of COVID, it has really accelerated digital transformation across all industries, not just CPG, but across pharma, quite obviously, and also across industries like automotive and so on. But specifically, if we were to focus on consumer product goods or pharma industry, we see that a lot more initiative is being taken at a senior management level. Almost 2/3 of the CIOs and CXOs that we interviewed have said that COVID has really accelerated their digital transformation rate, and it has really brought it to the forefront, so much so that CXOs are now engaged. There are large digital transformation events and opportunities being planned at an organization-wide level. So it is not just restricted to one area wherein IT looks at it, or it is the mandate of the CIO, but it's the mandate at a CXO level. Everyone has to be part of this initiative. I would just like to share a snippet with you, which will give you a broader idea of this. So I hope everyone can see my slide.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Great. So I was just saying, if we look at the current industry maturity for CPG, it has really accelerated the pace for most of the industries. And what's the top business imperative that is driving this pace? If we look at what CXOs are saying, they're really saying that improving operational efficiency is mainly the business directive that is turning them towards these initiatives. If we look at what are the directions that companies are going into, so data analytics and cloud computing and cybersecurity are the focus technology areas which are coming out in these conversations again and again. But there are obvious barriers that companies face as well. So if we look at particularly the Indian market, what we keep hearing is one of the most difficult things for technology adoption is the organizational culture that companies have. So given that previously these initiatives were looked at largely IT initiatives, and because of the silos that have been created at the manufacturing level and at the IT level, really creating an organizational culture of change and driving digital transformation becomes a very significant barrier to having these organization-wide adoptions. The other adoption is because if anyone has ever worked onto a manufacturing environment, they would know they're constantly fighting fires every day. So focusing on improvements comes after you focus on your every day-to-day business lines, and most often there is no time left because there is no person or specific team that is dedicated to seeing things through, particularly on the digital side. So these things tend to take a backseat, and when things tend to take a backseat, of course, any initiative that is being planned would not see through. So these are the kind of challenges that companies are facing, particularly in adoption of these technologies right now. If we look at how companies like PTC along with their partners have helped companies adopt these technologies. So we keep hearing that companies require greater support in understanding the business case for these technologies. So if I want to get more data out of my machines on the manufacturing base, I want to understand what are the insights that I can deploy to improve my OEE, bring down the downtime of my machines. Companies really need to sit down on the manufacturing shop floor and work with the business users to help them understand what would be the use cases for these initiatives. And then, identifying a benefits-backed roadmap. ROI is something that everyone recognizes from the CFO level to the top down, and it has been drilled down into the DNA of every company, that any initiative that you take has to have a very positive ROI. So that is a conversation we tend to have right at the very beginning, that what are the benefits that you would see out of such an initiative? Would you be able to, reduce the energy costs of your whole plant? Would you be able to improve the productivity of your workers? Would you be able to improve the availability of your machines? And that really hammers home, the point for adopting these technologies. Moving on, if we were to see, what are the typical use cases that companies deploy, and this is a study done by WEF. So companies tend to look at it from a lighthouse implementation kind of a project, wherein they would select one plant and they would go all out in exploring maximum use cases across digital lines, across manufacturing lines, and see how that affects their overall performance. So these are some of the things that you can see on the slide, that how it improves productivity, how it improves speed of time to market, how it improves customization, agility, sustainability, and all of those things. But with that, of course, a caveat on the right side. Most of the digital initiatives, particularly in our region, tend to get stuck in a pilot purgatory. And what I mean by that is companies, by nature, tend to be ultra cautious on adopting these technologies, which is where they would start with a small pilot in one line or 3 machines. And then, it would go on for 3 to 6 months. You would not see the, benefits out of it because it's not adopted at scale. And then, that conversation keeps on happening, that is it really necessary for us to, adopt it organization-wide? What you will see, in the presentation and the talks after this is also that companies who have adopted it across with a scale have been also able to scale it across multiple use cases as well as multiple sites very effectively. And they have tended not to restrict themselves to pilot stages, but also, done their previous homework on identifying the proper use cases, as well as identifying the right plant for these kind of initiatives. So what are the challenges that typically companies face when they sort of embark on this digital journey, so to say? Every industry, particularly the CPG, has seen a lot of automation over the last 2 decades. So much so that a lot of data exists in one form or the other at the company level. So companies are, what we call data rich, but insight poor in the sense. And secondly, what we also hear is a disconnect in alignment between the management, the top management, and the frontline force. So much so that they're using different technologies, while the management at the top wants to see what's going on at the plant, use remote first technologies. The frontline force is often equipped with tools and technology that is at least a decade prior to what is being seen at the HQ. So there's a clear disconnect, and that doesn't really harmonize any kind of digital adoption, which can enable the frontline force to better improve their OEEs, and similarly the management to better realize the value of that improved OEE. Then, of course, there are too many variables affecting the production, so much so unless you're very you have a system that can uncover those hidden patterns to develop corrective actions, it's very difficult to pinpoint what is really causing the bottleneck in your production systems. Then, effective measuring of whatever steps you take, whatever corrective steps that you have taken, if you've enabled some kind of predictive maintenance, has it really reduced the downtime of your machines? That's also very important in understanding whether it has really enabled your operational excellence. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that these are the value drivers that we typically see in a successful implementation. It comes from how do we increase the overall revenue of the company by increasing uptime, by increasing capacity, improving the quality of the product, increasing the new product introduction rate, and so on, also moderating the operating cost with these values. So you can see some of these, drivers on the sheet in front of you. Finally, if there was one takeaway that you need to take away from, my talk, it would be that companies need to be very, very sure of what use cases they are selecting, that they are high value use cases, that they target the right problem, and which is where, companies like PTC and partners like Greenwave are instrumental in figuring out which are those quick wins and those high value use cases that a company would need to target to get the proper ROI out of their digital transformation. With that, I conclude my presentation. Over to you, Ekta and Arup.
Thank you so much, Navdeep, for sharing insights about PTC. Definitely would be encouraging or taking some questions. Meanwhile, audiences, if you have any questions, I would request you to please put in the chat box. Navdeep is here, he will take it from there. And of course, after the panel, we'll invite your thoughts as well. So now moving forward to another partner from Greenwave Solutions Private Limited, I would like to invite Mr. Arup Chakraborty, founder and director with Greenwave. So Mr. Arup, thank you so much for being here, and over to you to share some interesting insights.
Hey, thank you, Ekta. Thanks a lot. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Arup.
All right. So first of all, a very warm welcome to all the audience who's gathered here to participate in this roundtable, and also my fellow speakers who will be sharing their insights during the course of the conversation. I have a very difficult task to introduce Greenwave in 10 minutes, which we have built very, very, caringly and very diligently over a decade. So a company which has been built with, blood, sweat, and toil, and of course with, customer insights, got to be introduced in 10 minutes. But I think I should be able to do that. So Greenwave has been focused on digitalization of manufacturing operations right from day one. And when we started the company way back in 2009, the digitalization of manufacturing as a jargon or as a particular phrase was not existent. So we have seen it all. It started from manufacturing analytics, manufacturing visibility, IT/OT integration, IIoT, Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, and finally, and sort of all-encompassing umbrella coinage called digitalization of manufacturing operations. So what we do in digitalization of manufacturing operations is that we are very industry focused, because we believe that every industry from its manufacturing nuances is unique, and we cannot do justice to all the industries that are prevailing in the country today or in the global scenario today. So our flagship industry where we do most of our digital transformation work is consumer products. In consumer products, we do significant amount of work in food and beverage and personal care products. Our second largest vertical is oil and gas and chemicals, followed by renewable energy. And a very recent vertical which we have added right now to our portfolio is agricultural product processing. So there is a very interesting concept called farm to fork, which is coming up. That means whatever is produced in the farm, as it goes through product transformation or product processing, and as it reaches to the consumer end consumption point, which is the fork, at every stage of that product transformation, there is a significant amount of digitalization involved. And there is also a lot happening on the agricultural 4.0 front. So Greenwave has been working with Rockwell, PTC, and with other partners like Dell, Cisco, Zebra, to see that how do you ensure a consistent customer experience from in this farm to fork journey, or for that matter in any product transformation or product manufacturing. So the services which we offer a full stack digitalization service. It starts with sensors, industrial automation, PLC, SCADA, DCS, drives. Okay. We also do turnkey instrumentation, and as a differentiator, what we do compared to the other industry players who are primarily from the OT side, we have a fairly large team of digital transformation consultants. We do IT/OT integration, and we do significant amount of work in the digital transformation in the IIoT play with PTC as well as with Rockwell. Now, when we talk about digitalization, it necessarily encompasses right from the sensor to the application and the end user experience. So the necessary building blocks would be sensors, your control systems, which is primarily the OT layer. Then there would be an IT/OT integration layer, which would be network and security primarily. And then there would be a compute layer and and various use cases application on top of that compute layer. So our partnerships have all been structured to make sure that we have equal footprint and equal expertise and offerings in all these 7-8 layers which I talked about. The companies with whom we have been working for last more than a decade or just about a decade are all there for you to see. Their logos are all there. Interestingly, they are all either the number one player or the number two player in their respective segments. So Greenwave has been very, very lucky to have partnered with ITC, Imami, Unilever, Marico, Berger, Renew Power, Linde, Indorama. Some of our clients are here in the digital roundtable today, and I'm sure they will share their experience and their insights from the implementation and the transformation journeys which you have executed together. Now, coming to our product portfolio. So at the core of our digital transformation application stack is ThingWorks, which is a PTC IIoT product, and which is the core of our entire offering. And then we have our own intellectual property, which are plugins or value additions on the PTC ThingWorks product. So we have a nugget of 6 strong offerings. Green 360, which is an industry-specific library for dashboards, reports, and analytics. Then followed by VMS 360, which is a truck in, truck out system, because since we talk about material coming into the plant and then the material going out of the plant as finished goods, since we cover the entire spectrum of the journey from raw material to finished goods, it's important for us to also integrate the analytics platform with the vehicle management system. So we've created a vehicle management system which we call VMS 360. Then we have a digital logbook and workflow. This is very, very important, interesting, because while there is a popular notion that most of the analytics or IIoT is to deal with typically deals with machine data. In our experience, we have seen beyond the machine there is close to 20-30% of the data which are typically resident in third-party applications or in manual logbooks which are prevailing on the shop floor. So what we have devised is that an application which basically helps you digitalize the entire logbook and also define a workflow as per your standard operating procedure, so that your approvals, your notifications, your alerts are all completely automated. And from a data repository perspective, you not only have the machine data to play with, you also have the manual data capture option for non-machine data to also harmonically synchronize with your machine data. Okay, then Solar 360 is typically for solar. Since you have a very large footprint in solar, there is a solar analytics platform which you have built, which is called Solar 360. EMS 360 is again very, very important and critical, because all of you would be aware that close to 33% of your conversion cost comes from utilities, right? And if you do not have a good monitoring management and analytics system to measure your utility from a absolute utility, the quality perspective of utility, and also specific utility consumption perspective, perhaps we are not doing justice to the 30-33% of your budget, which needs to be optimized. Last but not the least, we have a product called Digital Signature, which is a track and trace product which deals with the entire product genealogy right from raw material to finished goods. Okay, and these products sit on and around ThingWorks depending on the use cases the customer wants to really exploit and offer a complete digitalization solution to the client. Last bit of introduction from our side, what we offer. So we believe that digitalization constitutes of multiple steps, and if you see the the red blocks at the bottom of the slide, we start with raw material handling. We then move the raw material to the manufacturing and making sure that the raw material is getting transformed into the finished goods, and then the packing section comes into play. The entire raw material handling, manufacturing and packing needs and operations and visualization. And of course, in today's world, age and time, the ERP, the IT system, maybe SAP, maybe Oracle, it needs to be integrated online, real time with your control systems. So ERP integration is another very strong milestone or an offering from our side. Then we have a computerized management and maintenance system. And then once having done all these steps, or at least majority of these steps which I talked about, having a reasonable degree of automation maturity, having a good degree of backing line automation, because unless and until you have a backing line automation, you really cannot improve your OE, right? And then having a good, robust visualization system coupled with ERP integration, that will really create the sort of a foundation for you to move into analytics. Okay. And in analytics, we primarily talk about two stages of analytics. One is embedded analytics. There are, plenty of edge devices today, plenty of controllers today, plenty of SCADA applications today, which are capable of giving you on-premise or point analytics. So we do that, from a service offering perspective, and then we move to the platform analytics, or IIoT and true blue advanced analytics, which is what we do with PDC, right? So these are the fundamental 8 steps which Greenwave believes that is a good framework for one to really embark on the journey for digitalization. And having said that, I think I will not, keep the audience waiting from the panel discussion and the roundtable. So Ekta, over to you, and if you can kindly introduce the panel speakers, then I'll start with the discussion.
Thank you so much, Arup, for sharing interesting insights for the Green Wave. Now, of course, as you mentioned that we have an interesting panel that talks about. So moving towards the panel speakers, I would like to introduce our panel speakers. First panel speaker I would like to invite is Dr. Avdut Parab, CIO with Parley Agro Limited. We have Mr. Anjan Bhaumik, General Manager, DAP NPK and Tank Operations, Indorama India Private Limited. Mr. Sangram Patnaik, Associate Vice President with Indorama India Private Limited. We have Commander Arun Gopal Swamy, retired General Manager Engineering and Head Industry 4.0 at ITC Limited Foods Business Division. Mr. Ramadarsh Mishra, Plant Head Marico NER 1 and 2 plants with Guwahati. Mr. Pradyumna Kishore Mohanty, Lead Operational Excellence in Quality at Dr. Reddy's Lab. Mr. Satyendra Kumar Dwivedi, Head of Operations and Supply Chain with CG Foods. Again, we have one of the panelists, Mr. Navdeep Zakar, Regional Manager, Digital Transformation with PTC. And of course, the moderator for the day is Mr. Arup Chakraborty, Founder Director with Greenwave Solutions Private Limited. So Arup, I hand it over to you now to set the flow and to make this discussion very interesting. Thank you all the speakers for taking your time and being here. Look forward to an interesting discussion.
Thank you so much, Ekta, and once again a warm welcome to all my fellow panelists. Can I request all panelists to switch on their video so that I can at least identify all of you? All right, thank you so much. Okay, so as the background has been said that we're talking about digitalization of manufacturing operations, and I think all of us are aware that digitalization of manufacturing in its various avatars, maybe IIoT, Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, have been around for last couple of years. And as Navdeep correctly said, that COVID has really accelerated the adoption of digitalization, right? The focus of our discussion would be that I'm sure all of us have seen some successful implementations of digitalization and some failed implementations of digitalization as well, right? So our objective would be to really enlighten our audience today and also ourselves that what are the key learnings and key lessons that we have taken over the last maybe 4 or 5 years of this journey in digitalization, which can help people to get it first time right. Okay, so that there is no false start, there is no failed expectation, and your first project, your pilot project, can really become successful, and then you can scale and replicate that across your enterprise. So I will first perhaps go to Arun, because Arun, you've been associated with ITC's digitalization projects for a fairly long time, digitalization as well as engineering projects, and maybe if you can share your insights in terms of why should an enterprise look at digitalization to start with, and what is the basic readiness or preparedness from a checklist perspective, at least from a sanity check perspective, an enterprise should really ensure before embarking on a journey for digitalization. And then what would be the perhaps logical baby steps in the journey, so that one did not start with the predictive analytics on day one. Maybe what is the day 1 step, day 2 step, and then day n steps, right? So these are the three perspectives, Arun. Why should one look at digitalization? What is the basic readiness one needs to have in the enterprise? And what should ideally be the phased roadmap for adoption of digitalization? Over to you, Arun.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Arup, for having me on the panel. And I'll dive straight into the question. Now, before I go, I'd just like to give a small perspective, maybe, since I was introduced as Commander Arun. So let me take you back around 8 years when I was, sitting in a nuclear submarine, maybe 300 meters below the surface of the sea, and in the control room, and there were data coming in from the reactor controls, from the power generation, from sensors, from the fire control system. So around 15 to 20 odd control systems, giving a tactical picture for the command to take a decision. And all of it was indigenous. So the point I'm trying to make here is digitalization in India, I'm talking 8 years ago on a nuclear submarine, is available. Now it is up to us in the manufacturing or the, whichever sector you are, to pick and choose. Now, why digitalization? Now, I'm sure each of your, sectors, manufacturing, CPG, wherever you are, there are tons of data that is always created, finance, quality, production. And I'm sure there is some kind of a review, because what you don't measure, you cannot improve. So I'm sure every company, every sector has its own way of reviewing this data. Some do it fortnightly, some do it weekly. We used to do it monthly. And these are analyzed in silos. The production looks at it in its own way. The finance looks at it. Engineering looks at it. And of course, there is some insight created, but 9 times out of 10, it is a post-mortem. Post facto, things have already flown under the water. Of course, there are some improvements that can be undertaken. But now, if you imagine that you get this insight at the end of the shift or real time, and let us say an engineering parameter, a boiler. Now, if I were to wait for that 1 month, I've already lost, if you go at the furnace oil price, and you multiply that into 10 factories or what have you, I am talking of lakhs, if not crores, for that particular month. Now, digitalization makes data readily available for analysis. Basically, digitalization makes business sense. Now, a lot of us, the lexicon digital transformation has become a fashionable thing to use, and it has to, you have to use it. So all of us, including my organization, we do a lot of sprinkling of what Navdeep called pilot purgatory. We also did that. And but then, Arup, to your next question, how should one go about it? So, like I said, we have to, what we have learned, and we've learned it maybe the hard way, is that you have to identify definite business cases, areas of impact. Do not start enterprise-wide. Look at the smallest or the highest impact. We started with the utilities. In fact, we started with GreenWave, with something called the smart utilities in one of our factories, which gives real-time insights of the entire utilities. And why utilities? Because we found in that particular factory, our energy cost was upwards of 100 crores per year. The smallest bit of improvement delivers that impact. So look at it, how to go about it. Look at it in an identify small sector, get a big success, and then gradually transform it. I think that if you look at the lighthouse models which Navi brought out, and we have also done that analysis, and we found that if you do this digital transformation and you look at it and you look at business cases, that's what the lighthouse strategy says. Look at the business cases, see what, and it is transformation. So it has to be at least 15 to 20% of your EBITDA. Only then is it a transformation. So look at these high impact cases, look at it in a focused manner, transform that, and then replicate. So first is analyze and transform. So once you get this data, you will find that digital tools help you to visualize, to benchmark, to trend. And then how do you transform? Now, once you've created this big, huge volume of data, there are these AI tools, predictive maintenance, golden batch manufacturing that you can do with AI that we have done, and then transform. So that is how you go about it. And just to give us, and it's not just the financial outcomes. Yes, of course, they are very, very important. It's not just the operational outcomes, they're equally important. For a long-term sustainability, it is also the capability building and the culture of your organization that you have to change. Because otherwise you will find that you get all these fancy dashboards. And please remember, the man on ground, the foot soldier on ground is still the same. So unless it is beneficial for him, he's not going to adapt to this transfer, to this technology. You give him a lot of fancy dashboards. It's great. It's good for a VIP visit. But for actionable insight, the system that you implement, and Arup has shown you a list of a menu card. Not everything will work for every organization. So you have to pick and choose and then implement to the last mile. So the boiler operator, the chiller operator, your process operator has to understand that. And to do that, you have to have an organizational or a cultural change. You have to build up their capability. So that is what we have realized. That is what we are partnering with Greenwave, with PTC towards our digital transformation. And yeah, Arup, I hope I've answered your questions.
Yeah, Arun, thanks a lot. I think you answered it great, and specifically, that was very interesting anecdote of the 300-meter down below sitting in a nuclear submarine. I can't imagine the same Arun Gopalaswamy sitting there 300 meters below now. Good to have you above the surface, above the seawater surface. Because a talent like you is did not be sort of kept under the sea always. At times, it's good to see you in the manufacturing arena and transforming projects and visions of companies. Thank you, Arun. Thanks a lot. Let me turn to my next panelist, Dr. Parab. Dr. Parab, you heard Arun. I would just add to what Arun has said. While Arun emphasized on the importance of the criticality of identifying the right use case and then exploiting the value from that and then replicating it, I think before we go to the use case, there are certain preparatory steps also involved for digitalization of manufacturing specifically, which is to do with line integration. Primarily, line integration means, we have all disparate, disconnected assets on the shop floor. We need to connect all these assets and then making sure all these assets, which could be having different diverse control systems, they are all talking on a common language. Could be OPC, could be Modbus, could be any other protocol for that matter. But we have to rationalize or normalize the language, bring it to a form and shape which is understood by IT applications of the world, and then create analytics on top of it. So at Parlay, I would like to understand from your side that what are the steps, what are your visions, your strategies to harness the power of digitalization, and what kind of maturity today you have within Parlay?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think Arun has touched many areas which have seen the light of the day. Very interestingly, let me just go back to a little bit of foundational split of digital transformation. For me, digital is technology. Transformation is all about people, cultural change. So these are the two axes of digital transformation. Now, we just take the use case or digital transformation area and just go ahead. It can be an utter failure. So what we have initiated is overlay a triangle of mindset, skill set, and people set over people, process, technology, which is a general triangle which we talk about, because it is paramount, essential that we change the thinking of the people, because finally they need to consume the outcome of the digital transformation and not so this is one area where we are not saying that we are there, but that is in process one. So largely we're talking a lot to the people about what is digital and so on and so forth. So there is a track which is going on. Now coming back to the question about connecting the machines on one common platform so that we can draw the value out of it, and that this is a prerequisite, because digital is all about data and not about largely about a process. So when you connect, what you get, the data consolidation, data I would say centralization. Now this is not an easy process to do it. As rightly, the machines are of different ages. You might have to have a different approach for different equipment, different sometimes lab instruments, sometimes manufacturing equipment, so and so forth. So with this, we have slightly deferred our approach in a sense is we have gone back to OEMs, and fortunately we are not with too many OEMs. We may be having 6 major OEMs with whom we are tied up with a different aging of the machines, and we called them and asked them, kindly tell us what is your digital journey in your company, and try and present us what are you doing in your digital areas, because they need to be ahead of the customers if they need to provide the service or offer their machines to us. And that's where I think this a small trigger, and this is a suggestion of course came from the team members, it has really helped us because they already have a data acquisition techniques, tools in place. So for me, it became not a zero start, but it became a somewhere start from point number 2 or point number 3. The data acquisition they're already doing. Only thing we haven't taken that service. Now what we did is we said it, is there a way you can remotely monitor my machines and equipments so that you always coming on my on site can go away if you have this kind of digital, and they were ready to do that. Now, what happened is there are 2 things happened. One, their service cost went down, and I, by design or by default, I got the data acquisition, which was perhaps would have been a horrendous task for me, and would have taken a lot of investment, both human capital as well as talent as well as the money. And now that layer is something which I got a ready-made, which and then they already have the tags which are readily available for me. Now with data being available, I also draw their value. What are those monitoring analytics which they're doing it? Some of them they were typically descriptive, some of them they already have the very predictive kind of analytics. Now why can't I take those as analytics, and for me the ultimate age is, can I move from today my sheer monitoring of critical process parameter to heartbeat monitoring? So is that something which I can move over? And this is our target, to move from today we are only doing a critical process parameter to heartbeat monitoring. We are not there yet. I'm not saying we are there, but we are moving there. So just to keep it little short, so bringing the machine on network was not so difficult. We never had we being in FMCG, we as a Parle Agro, we believe in not to keep a too old machines for long, because for us what matters is the output of the machines to meet the demand. So we have an internal policy also not to keep the old age machine. That has also helped us to use the leverage rather the OEMs and get my data layer ready for our analytics. And we are fairly getting slowly matured on the critical process monitoring at least, and that has started giving us good measurement, and the at least the efficiency have been increased. Last 2-3 months we see there is a positive impact on that. So that's number one which we had done it. Second area where we are also looking as a digital transformation, where we see that, and I think there was a mention of that, Arun has mentioned, is typically rotary part of the maintenance, because there is a, since we are running 24/7, I don't think there's something which we cannot monitor. Condition-based monitoring or typically preventive does not serve the purpose. Now we are embarking on the rotary machines, which has a higher failure probability. And second is, since they are the size of these equipments are it's having too much of redundancy is a cost to us. So we are moving towards a predictive maintenance. We are not completely there, but we are in the process of doing that. So we are trying to attach a trying to attack a digital transformation with not too much of a complete disturbance kind of thing, but at the same time you leverage on where the things are already there, and slowly bring in one. At the same time, ensure that the mindset, skill set, and people set are getting converged at the point, so that they slowly embers. It's not easy to move the elephant because people are of different age, and also we are facing issues. It's not a cakewalk, but this is what we our journey looks like, and our end objective is to every machine should go into heartbeat mode monitoring.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parab. I think there is a resonance of change management in terms of what Arun said and what you also said, and the blend of technology, process, and people that really defines where the project is going to be successful or the project is not going to be successful, as you correctly said. Two very interesting insights, other insights also came out from your deliberation. One is, I really liked your approach of leveraging the OEMs, and I think you said you had six standard OEMs with whom you work, and really leveraging or enticing them to do remote analytics and also allowing them to do remote maintenance, which is a win-win for both sides. So you get the insights of the machine, and the OEMs, servicing cost comes down, and you also benefit out of that from an OE or uptime perspective. So
and you repurpose your budget, repurpose the budget. So it's
completely.
It's become a self-financing kind of thing. So you don't need and then if this is a case, then even if it fails, it's okay, fine. But there is
I completely agree. And if you can do remote, then your data acquisition is also done, because in order to remote, you have to have a common rationalization and normalization of the protocols.
And you are transferring the risk to the OEM so that you are safe.
I now I know why Parley Products is so successful in the market and why your market share is so high. That's very interesting. Thank you so much. All right. So now let me turn to Ram. Ram, we have been in the journey together for quite some time now, for both your plans, Northeast 1 and Northeast 2. Where I think you can really enlighten us is the concept of use case. How do you prioritize use case? What kind of use cases you have already exploited in Marico? What's really working for you well, and perhaps where you are facing a little bit of roadblock. What has been the overall journey experience in terms of digitalization and specific to use cases? Because I think while people, process, and technology are important, it's of paramount importance to get the use case story right and the use case prioritization right. Correct? So Ram, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Arup, for this opportunity, and I think I am really happy to be interacting with this very esteemed panel, and really got a lot of insights from the previous speakers. Just to give a background beyond what just Arup mentioned, I come from Marico Limited. Have been with this organization for the past 17 years. One other bit is that, now that we are talking about digital transformation and specifically about manufacturing, have this experience of around 7 odd years in front-end sales also, and 5 odd years into commodity buying and supply chain, and now for the past 5 to 6 years into manufacturing, wherein for the past 2.5 odd years I am in Guwahati, wherein we are making a set of products. Before this, 3 odd years into a process plant, wherein I was heading a refining unit. Why I gave this context is, while all of us agree that and I specifically believe
Monday को यहाँ पे लेके आए, अभी सैटरडे संडे को सबको बताओ कि अपना एरिया चेक कर लो, क्योंकि मंडे को मेरा
Ekta, can you force mute all the other?
Yes, I've done. So sorry.
So the previous speakers are also talking about, digitization and how to make it successful. And I think all of us are on the same page, but only one piece. See, digitalization is no longer a choice. I think it's something that all of us are aware that it has to be done. And we would be at various stages of success and various stages of learning in that digitalization journey. The second bit is, having experienced both front end and back end, I am more convinced that the relevance of digitalization in back end is much more prominent as compared to front end, though it is equally relevant there. The reason being, when it comes to manufacturing, I think there are multiple facets at single point of time that you are basically impacting. It starts right from safety to compliance to quality to, your cost matrices, your efficiency matrices. Again, Navdeep in the beginning talked about, all of us being data rich and insight poor, and that's such a brilliant statement to make. Having said that, I think that has to be put in a 2x2 frame wherein there is this time thing also. So there are some things in manufacturing or in any function which are critical immediately. Some things would be critical or maybe important in a time horizon, short to medium term to long term. In that context, I think when we started collaborating with Greenwave in the past 3 odd years, I think we were very clear that what are the right kind of choices or right kind of, bets that we are going to make. And we were very clear because the plant that we currently are talking about, it's a plant which both in scale and complexity is of a decent size. So for example, we roughly make 600 million packs in a year. That's a huge amount. The point is, the kind of space in which we make these packs is very limited. Between two plants we have got only 4 acres, so it's a vertical setup. So it's a complete, delight for a supply chain professional. Delight can be substituted with nightmare also. Earlier it would have been a nightmare, now it is a delight, because obviously there has been a learning journey, and we have been able to actually put the right pieces in the jigsaw puzzle. I think few pieces, I think I'll talk about wherein we have succeeded very well is, the first piece is in improving our truck turnaround times, because I think in order to have a edge, or in order to have top edge over, managing complexity well, it is very very critical for us to manage our vehicles well. And using Greenwave gate portal and, the kind of functionality which come there, we have been exactly able to work on the most efficient way in which we can unload our trucks in the fastest possible way, because then the material takes a route and then it has to come to the production floor and all. That is number one. Number two, most importantly, I think in improving OEs, and then accordingly it also has impacted our capacity utilizations. We have been exactly able to, at a line level, pinpoint what our problematic areas. Earlier we were very generalistic. We were in the mode that if I have to improve an OE, there is one solution which works on all the different kind of lines. These are very different kind of lines, very different bottle formats, very difficult different combos of packing materials, and hence individual machines require individual solutions. And I think with this integration with Greenwave that we have had, we are exactly able to pinpoint what kind of solutions we need to have. That is the second piece. The third piece is the power module, wherein we are able to manage our the power requirements. Specifically, it's not a very heavy utility plant. Process plants are heavy in utilities, but here we would be having compressor DGs, but still a fair bit of it. We have been able to get a hang of what kind of power consumptions are happening at different utility level, and we have been able to zero it down. Not only that, I think I will extrapolate it even to the safety bit, wherein using this module, particularly of TTAT, which is truck turnaround time, the first one that I mentioned, I think vehicle safety was a very very prominent issue at our location because of the space constraint. Owing to this trackability of vehicles and also monitoring this TTAT very very closely, we have been able to actually run these operations not only seamlessly but also very safely. So these are the few use cases, and I think early wins are very very important. I think each speaker talked about the fact that the previous speaker very brilliantly put it, that it is about two parts. One is digital, which is about machines. Second is about transformation, which is about us. So when it is about us, it is about confidence building. And I think one thing which helped in terms of fast tracking this journey was to identify some early milestones and create some quick wins. And I think the quick win, if I have to tell, apart from OE, it was, crunching our truck turnaround times. That built a lot of confidence on this journey that we are taking, owing to which now we are at a certain maturity stage and we are enjoying its benefits. Yeah, Roop, so that's it from my side.
Thank you, Rams. Thank you so much. I think you put it very nicely, and I must say that amongst many of our customers, the team which worked with us from a digitalization perspective in Marico, they were really the change catalyst. I mean, the kind of adoption propensity I have noticed within the Marico team and the kind of zeal for success is not something which we find everywhere. And I wherever I go, I always set the example of Marico, because and it's very essential ingredient that the team needs to feel that is essential for them to succeed in this. It cannot be, it has to be a teamwork between whosoever is your partner and who's the end consumer. Unless and until there is a teamwork and we have a common goal to win, then the chances of success would be very, very remote. All right. So let me go to Anjan Bhaumik. Anjan, you've been working with Indorama, and I specifically would request you to throw insights on how you've approached in Indorama, and also the pointers on the advanced analytics, because so far what we have talked about or covered today is line integration, which is data capturing and wrapping the data or contextualizing the data, and then talking about certain use cases like truck turnaround time, OEE, production monitoring. Okay, but beyond these also, I'm sure Indorama would have done all these, and you can throw some light on that. What are the advanced analytics from a process manufacturing perspective, continuous process manufacturing perspective, you are harnessing today? So over to you, Anjan.
Yeah, thank you, Arup sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible, and please exclude the sir. You're all friends here.
Okay.
Though I'm senior to you in age, but age doesn't matter.
No, it's culture and it's habit. Both are there. So I'll continue, sir. I'm sorry. So I am actually heading 2 DAP NPK plants in Indorama India Private Limited in Haldia, West Bengal. So in my under ammonia plant tank operation is also there. So this DAP NPK process is very much continuous, and we are operating these 2 plants through DCS control system, which are supplied by this Yokogawa and Rockwell. So first thing, we have this control system, but still we are going to adopt this digitalization platform. Initially, there was in the management confusion, what is the requirement of digitalization, what will be the benefit of the digitalization on and above this DCS control system. So in that particular thing, we understand from the different digitalization technology suppliers, and we came to know about the other features and what are the benefits of digitalization. Now, my previous speakers also said that this is not right now is a choice. It is mandatory for all the industries to come up with these digitalization platforms. And we are basically right now somehow new to this particular field. And I think in India, in our like our fertilizer industry, we will be the forerunner for this particular digitalization. So we have already implemented the first phase of this particular project, and we have done some particular things which are very much interesting to us, like report generation, integration with SAP system, and we have already configured the SMS gateway for alerts and notification to our relevant persons during any upset in the process conditions. So those are very much interesting to us, and we have made the 45 digital twins for our assets, which are continuously running in our plant, and we are accessing all those data through our mobile and laptops. So this is the first phase, and in the second phase, we are right now acting on that for last 2 months on the data which are we are accessing right now through our mobile and laptops. Those are the basically actually we are trying to integrate all these data and trying to uh, program some way that so that we can understand what is happening and try to get the decision making which is actually in our mind of operators or those who are experts. So we want to place those knowledge into the digitalization platform so that we don't have to depend upon the of a particular person or a particular expert. So that will be a great achievement if we can transform those knowledge to the digitalization platform, and it can be made independent of a particular person or expert. So that is our right now main motto, and we are right now working on the prediction of particular certain important parameters like moisture prediction in our product, finished product, and some intermediate process parameter like N by P ratio through the soft sensors, because we are handling that solid, liquid, and gas, all three phases in our process. So it is a very problematic thing that we cannot measure all the data, all the parameters through our process, and also it is all those solid, liquid, and gases are corrosive things. So there is no particular measurement system in our process. So what we are doing through the measured data and manual entry data, we are just trying to find out some correlation between all those data and trying to predict through the algorithms and correlations whether it can be a lead parameter. Like previously, right now it is a lag parameter. After 1 hour, we can understand, we can get to know that this parameter is already upset. But if we can understand prior to happening this particular upset, so then we can run the plant with without any hassle and without any upset, and we can increase our uptime in the plant, and we can show the actually the profit benefit of this particular digitalization platform. That's all from my side.
Thanks a lot, Anjan. I think very insightful. Just for the benefit of all the the entire audience and the other speakers, Indorama right now they are embarked on a journey for two very interesting use case. DAP being a hydroscopic material, the moisture content of the finished product is very, very important. If the moisture is high, then of course there's a chance that it will become sort of lumpy, and if the moisture is unnecessarily taken out beyond the desired measure, then the as a company they stand to lose on the yield, because moisture has a contribution on the end weight of the product, right? So it's a very tricky subject on both sides. On one hand, if you go overboard, you lose yield. On one hand, if you are conservative, then you actually end up suffering on quality. And typically, moisture was measured in Indorama, or for that matter, in many plants across categories in the lab, and at a specific interval, maybe 4 hours, every 4 hours, every 8 hours, or every 24 hours. And once you get the moisture data from the lab, you typically take a corrective call, but you've already gone through a blind spot for 4 to 8 hours, which was the incubation period for the moisture data to be published from the lab, right? So what we're trying to do with them is that we are trying to get their raw material QA data, try to match that with the process parameter data and the lab data, historical lab data, and then create algorithms on PTC ThingWorks Analytics Manager to predict the moisture on near real-time basis. so that the in-flight corrections can take place on a process side and the moisture can be controlled to the desired extent. So similar, another very important aspect, which is N by P, which is mole ratio or nutrient ratio between nitrogen and phosphorus. That is again being predicted through a soft sensor model. So I just wanted to highlight these two because there are very few enterprise where today these kind of advanced analytics are being attempted. And Indorama, of course, in the fertilizer industry is a forerunner. But I'm sure in the overall industry perspective also, they are definitely leading ahead at this point in time. So I go now to Mr. Sangram Patnaik. He is the head of IT and AVP at the Haldia plant. And without Mr. Sangram's effective contribution in the compute setup and the network and the security setup, we could not have achieved in phase one what we've achieved. So, his contribution and his design insights were paramount. So Sangram, if you can, kindly share with us that, how have you approached this particular journey from a compute infrastructure perspective? You are on mute, Sangram.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sangram. Actually, I have joined Indorama 5 years back. Prior to that, I have got 23 years experience in IT and both manufacturing industry, 14 years in cement domain, and then 5 years in fertilizer domain. Apart from that, I have got experience in TCS, working with TCS and Polaris also. So prior to whenever we are going for the industry 4 automation, then the best thing you can do is that you need to assess the users of that particular software who are the customer who is going to use this particular platform. So depending on that, we need to design our infrastructure and security cybersecurity. So prior deciding to go for the Kingsoft platform, me and Anjan had gone to various other industry. We have visited Hindalco, Taloja, Deepak Fertilizer, and some more industries. Just to look at their experience, just to get their input regarding this industry 4 automation, what was the problem they had faced in that particular implementation time. And after getting all the input, then we had decided to go for a hybrid kind of infrastructure setup. Actually, suppose you go for a new industry 4 automation setup, then suppose you go for a CapEx one, then there are certain benefits, but cloud, suppose you go for a cloud one, it has got other benefits also. CapEx on-prem premises, suppose you have an on-prem server and network, everything, and all this cybersecurity infra placed at your on-prem side, then you need to maintain those infra at your cost and at your skill set, which may be difficult for a remote processor like Haldia, for other manufacturing also. While going for a cloud one may be costly for a particular. Then you can have some hybrid model like nowadays the cloud partners are also providing the IT infrastructure at your place on rental basis. So we have decided to go for that model. We had hired the IT infrastructure from CP on rental basis for this project. As Mr. Parab said that nowadays management want to have a project which is self-financed. So this is the first project we are having at this juncture. But as Arup sir also knows that there are subsequent projects in line after successful completion of this project. So before this project given allocated to ThinkWorks and PTC and Greenware, the ROI has been already decided. We are working on those ROI also. And suppose we will get those ROI after the implementation of this particular ThinkWorks software, then definitely we will be going for the industry. This particular software to be implemented for our sulfuric acid plant, for our other manufacturing units also. So currently, I would like to share one slide which shows the infrastructure, IT infrastructure and cybersecurity aspect we have taken for this particular industry of.
You can share your slide, Mr. Sangram.
Yeah.
There is a share button at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah,
Green button.
there it is. Yeah. What is I don't think is allowed.
Are you facing any difficulty in sharing the screen?
Yeah, not allowed.
Ekta, is the sharing enabled?
Yes, he is our
Co-host, right?
co-host.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have gone to that advanced sharing option.
So, not to worry, Mr. Sangram. Because of paucity of time, I can come back to you.
Okay.
Okay,
Let me just brief about the cybersecurity aspect we have taken for this industry for 4.0 automation. So we have because we have decided to make this platform available for all process user in our DFE want to implement a plot. So we have decided to make this particular platform available over the public cloud. So that's why we have taken a separate internet island connectivity for this particular hosting this particular things for software over the particular BM. And then this particular BM is connected to cloud plaza and deep security. And so that particular connection from DCS of coming to OPC server. So we have chosen the methodology of getting connected to OPC client. And that particular OPC server is connected to another firewall, which is connected to the keep server. And keep server is interacting with our firewall. And that particular software which is available to all the end users over their mobile platform, it is getting connected through your MDM control that we have taken off with over 365 Intune software we are using for that mobile device handling. This is the platform we are in the Greenwave team is giving support and they are doing all the implementation to VPN connectivity. So this like for considering all the users requirement, we have designed our network and we have established our IT infrastructure. Any for in case of any such clarification, anybody can come to me over my mail. We can have a detailed discussion.
So actually, thank you so much, Sangram. So actually, I'll encourage all participants here as well as the audience, because in my experience of 30 years in the industry, I think I have seen the fastest and the smoothest implementation of compute infrastructure in a digitalization project in Indorama. And the complexity of the integration spans from SAP integration with the IIoT platform, exposing the IIoT platform to a public IP so that people can access the data on the mobile and on the go, and also integration of the IIoT platform with the core OT setup, which are DCS, right? And typically the DCS vendors always ring fence their turf, saying that no, you can't take data from my side without doing XYZ sanitizations, basic sanity checks without being done. No data migration or data transition is possible. So Indorama very smartly did all the three aspects of integration, exposing it onto public IP, ERP integration, and OT integration. And they have also deployed advanced technologies like virtualization of servers, firewalls, intrusion detection, everything that is there in the prescription book for an IT/OT integration. So I really encourage that. It was our bad luck that Mr. Sangram could not share the slide. But if you have any question, you can directly ping him or ping him after this session during the Q&A. Now let me go back to Pradyumna. you have the topic which I kept reserved for you is to do with change management, right? People have talked about people, process, technology, harmonization between the three pillars. Arun talked about the food soldiers. Everybody talked about unless and until there is a data culture in the company and users really get to know that what is in it for them, the projects cannot be successful. So if you can, share your insights within DRL, Dr. Reddy's lab, as well as the overall industry perspective, that what is the significance and importance of change management in a digitalization? Pradmino, are you there?
Yeah, thank you, Arup. And am I audible and clear?
You're loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for giving this opportunity to join this forum with these elite members on digitalization platform. So just before starting, I would like to give a example of Commander Arun Gopal Swami. He has given a tagline that fancy dashboard. So I will come to that fancy dashboard. So here also that structure is there when we implemented that, how we overcome those challenges. But that is a part of journey. So here, let me introduce. I am Pradyumna Mohanty. I am leading 2 units at Dr. Reddy, Visakhapatnam, where I saw the submarine inside the submarine, and after 300 meters down the sea level, how is the experience of the person taking that into mind. I am just interlinking with digitalization implementation, how we can link digital initiative with the working level people, so that they can understand their working level experience and the digital initiative both are different. We have to bridge that gap. That is the biggest challenge. So coming back to the topic, this adoption cycle, when it is starts in a company. So I would share all the experience at the site when it started. It starts with point optimization, line optimization, and plane optimization. Simple, the way we go for change management in improvement cycle also. 15 years back, if I would like to share example of Six Sigma or Lean project, what we were doing at that time. We collect all the data which is there noted in a record, then we put it in a Excel, then we do apply process capability regression, all the models, then we identify some insights of that graph, then we take solution. That was the situation 15 years back. So when currently when digitalization came into picture, so I would say it is digitization and digitalization. Two are different things. When I talk about digitization, that time all those manual records are came into the systems. So that is one part, digitization. Then from those data, all those data from different sources go to a data lake. Then from that data lake, we put some mathematical modeling, and from that we can make a sensible decision. So those what activity we were doing in process capability 15 years back, those are now in a fingertip. You can get those insights and take quicker decisions. So this is the journey how excites me to go into and work on this digitalization journey. So that has in Dr. Reddy's, that has been piloted at one place, and that took some time. Meantime, we have to in this journey, what we have to do, they have gone through a capability building model. So this is in LinkedIn. There is digital ninja programs are there. People has to go participate. There is teasers, quiz. All those things are there. So that way they have created a euphoria. So people took part. They got reward and recognition. They come to know what is blockchain, what is IoT, what is digitalization, all those terminology, they first gets accustomed with the terminology. Until unless we directly go and interact with shop floor people and tell we have to do regression models, and we have to do all this distillation and all this thing, then they will not understand. So they have gone through a process. So once this maturity, digital maturity achieved, then they have gone for this reward and recognition process, and they awarded people. Post that, they have created a incentivized model. So there they have not pushed. That has to, this digitalization approach has to come from top, no doubt about this. But at the same time, there is no choice about going. So if we want to be competitive in the market, so we have to go through this. So they have created a incentivized culture. So those plant who will take this initiative and implement at their plant faster and quicker with all the modules they have launched. So they will be incentivized with certain rewards. So that kind of culture they have created. So that excited the plant and the site team to pick it up fast. So whoever takes it fast and completes it fast, they will be recognized. So that way, it is a choice of me. I have unilaterally chosen to implement. It is not pushed and thrown on me to implement. So that plays a role how to convert this change into reality. Next, if I give an example, what we when we go for this journey, there are certain parallel activities we have to do. So it is like coming out of this infrastructure challenges. So when we go for this, we feel some challenges in pilot stage. When this has implemented at one place, that time some infrastructure challenges came. In pharma specifically, validation is a humongous task. So that time, this validation takes place a long time. So infrastructure, then validation, and this dashboard which is created, there are a lot of flaws which has been identified by the team, and that has to be plugged in a faster way. So that is put together. This is the parallel activity which has to be done in the point optimization phase itself. So when it is done, then we come to a mature stage where other plants can adapt it faster. Next point, I will come with some example what we are doing. So here we are going for a process. So people, process, and technology, if we want to combine, then we have to identify the right process which is having high value in deliverance. So we identified from lot creation to UD, release of the product. That value stream we have identified. So on that value stream, with the team, while in implementation, the team set together and identified all the flaws in the system, gaps, and those gaps has been bridged through interlocks, and those interlocks helped in meeting compliance. So because there is a lot of data coming and processing, it was processed manually, and now it is being processed digitally. We don't know whether we should rely on that data, whether there is some flaws are there, whether those calculations are right or not, whether batches which is coming, that is coming out right or not. So for that, this validation and gap bridging and developing interlock is a important aspect. So I would share the challenges which is coming and focus needed by the core team, SME or developer, are this to select right set of people from site who can adapt change faster from the floor. We should not hire from external, so we should select from the aspiring people who want to grow in the industry, within the organization. This is, and they have a right set of mindset. We should select those team, energetic team. Then we should have a strong belief on the final objective of this digitalization journey. So if we have that belief within us, then we will reach. If that is the key expectation from the team while choosing this journey. Second, faster implementation and quickly bridging the gap of those systemic gap. And what is our expectation beyond this implementation cycle? What we are doing, RPA in the review technique, the reviewer has to take a checklist and he has to review 19, 20 points. Then he has to tick, 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 tick like that. Instead of that, this review by exception that helps. There is a target value, there is a observed value. When observed value deviates from target value, that time it highlights. So only those portions has to be reviewed by the person. That actually gives that saves a lot of time by the reviewer. That is second example. And what we are now struggling with is prediction tool. We have a column which has a data, 4-5 variables are there. Based on that, that column has to be predicted when that will fail. So there is a mathematical model which will predict that column will fail after so and so date or after so and so injection. But in between, if we tweak with the settings of that column, or if we flush that column, that time this model entirely changes. So here AI and manual intervention, where we are struggling with, this is a journey like developing a driverless car. So if there is a clear traffic and dedicated platform, driverless car will be successful. When there is a unpredicted traffic, how to move with a driverless concept. That is one part. And next expectation is the planning tool, capacity planning and planning tool. That module in terms of digitalization will help a lot, which we are in the very nascent stage. We are starting with that
All right.
approach.
So, Pradman, I'm sorry. There's a time.
I'm done. I am very much excited because the examples I wanted to share.
Your examples are all beautiful examples. I think for me the key takeaway was that the teams, the plant team, the HO team, the project team, the digital team, and the integration partner or the technology partner, they have to have a belief in the common goal. I think that's the first fundamental aspect, because we all know that implement, measure, correct, and then again implement, or measure and correct. That cycle we all know, but we critically miss the point that there has to be a common belief. And the second aspect, which I just touch upon, is that digitalization is still perceived today as not a must-have but a nice-to-have. So without digitalization, your plant is not stopping, and hence, if I need to buy an automation product to make the machine run, I will not only invest, but I'll make sure that is, being implemented correctly. But digitalization is being looked upon in many aspects today as an additional responsibility over and above my day job, right? So I think if these two aspects are addressed well, one, common belief. Second is that it is a must-have, not a nice-to-have. It is really a must-have. I mean, today, people are not feeling the brunt of it, but in maybe 2-3 years' time or less than that, they'll be completely caught off guard that you're not prepared for the digital wave, right? So that's a fantastic deliberation, fantastic insights, Pradman. Thank you so much. Now let me my last panelist on a very interesting and the cornerstone topic of today's discussion, which is ROI, right? Because if the finance head is, or the CXO, these CXOs are not convinced about the ROI, the projects perhaps will not see the light of the day, right? So I go to Mr. Satyendra Dwivedi, who comes with tons of experience and who's been in manufacturing for decades together, to really give us some insight on how do we really approach the topic of ROI in such a new age topic or a sort of uncharted territory like digitalization.
Okay, thank you, Arup, and thank you, Ekta, for inviting me to this platform. My deliberation will be very short and crisp. Most important in the digitalization is like when you do so many things in a plant and you do for improvements, like pehle aisa tha, abhi aisa ho gaya. So before and after. Generally, what happens? You see, you take a data of before that this was this performance and this is what I'm going to do. And after that, you measure that, yes, this is my performance. Many times in absence of correct data, your after performance may not be correct, or may not be correct representation, or correct will give a correct picture to the organization or management to have a feedback for further improvement. So in case if you have correct digitization or correct measurement rather of before data, and then correct measurement of after data. So before data, which will take care of so many, because your process is never straight line anywhere. So the correct digitization will take care of all the variations which were there in the past or before kind of thing, scenario. And after data also will be taken care of those variations. So you will get the correct ROI of how whether you should invest it or not, or any investment decision on that. So it is must for any before and after study. Otherwise, any before and after study without digitization or correct measurement rather will be a misleading. Many people in the organization do like for their performance measurement, or they show that they have done very good things. That's okay, but when it goes for management, I mean the long-term perspective, it is very important that the management or the company gets the correct picture of how it was and how it had happened, or how it was and how it should be to take. It will help in taking the management a correct decision. The second is most important and very much important, that is Arup has once touched also, that is compliance driven. Like suppose I am selling a product or making a product of some of any product, and the government rule regulation says that you can't give less product. Suppose I am giving 100 gram of say any product or 100 ml. I don't have to give 99 ml or 98 ml. Every time I have to give 100 ml or 100 plus. So many times when there is no measurement or correct digitization or correct kind of that feedback loop system, you or any company, any software you go, they play safe, and they have to play safe. They will give either 100 is very less. I mean, the frequencies of getting 100 is very less. It is 101, 102, 103, 104. So what happens? There are two things. One is that you lose your exact bottom line on these giveaways. You have a say maybe, and I'm saying bottom line is this 2-3% loss is a complete loss. You are giving the customer in free, which is not supposed to be given, right? And also, why compliance given? Because it is, you can't give less than 100. Also, and I'm taking another case in which I were to give less than 5% moisture in a product. If I am giving safely 2%, 2.5% without any measurement, or because I don't have any proper digitized control on that, I will be losing, because 2%, 2.5%, I am losing by excess drying or giving less moisture. And also, if I don't have measurement, I cannot, suppose I am maintaining a percentage of 4.5 or 4.75, I may cross 5% of, the benchmark of 5% in some cases if you don't have proper digitized control. So if you cross 5%, you may land in some legal kind of issues. So if you have correct digitization, correct kind of this feedback loop system through the digitization, you will be saving your bottom line, and also you will be not landing in the legal kind of or compliance kind of, so many things. Another aspect of digitization is like there are so many key drivers, how you go for it while making ROI. We have several models, like you may go for like high margins, low margins, high cost, high margin, low cost, and then lower capital, higher capital. Means you have many choices. You have many choices of, like, you may go for a high life cycle cost. So this digitization can be done through so many things, like in any of the choice based on your industry, whether it was in food industry or in capital based industries, or like in infrastructure industries. All these, the 4 or 5 which I mentioned, can be implemented based on the type of industry and other things. Then I will also mention there are some hidden costs in the this ROI calculation and doing this digitization. The hidden costs are like many times your the wrong team is in place, which gives you a wrong picture, and that whole exercise gets wrong. So this is not digital, but this actually happens, that the team who is doing digitization is not, that itself is not doing correct measurement or not correct information to the management to give to take certain long-term decisions. Then there are some kind of, let's say, scraps, reworks, some kind of things which are not taken care in the these are hidden costs which are not taken care while taking these kind of decisions. Then there are some, like suppose I am doing some expansions or some greenfield things. In that case, many times while doing digitization, we miss out on some kind of license fees or other things which are not taken care while calculating the payback. Like I say, this is the cost for 1 week, and this is cost for 1 month or one day or 1 week or one year, and those licensing costs we miss out. So we should not miss out those hidden costs which are there in the doing digitization. So, and one last but not the least, when you do any kind of digitization project or any kind of such project, your even first project should be based on ROI, because it is kind of, say, if your gestation period is so high, you will get discouraged in your first project itself. Also, the viability of your future projects will also be affected if your the ROI or payback period is not realistic or not within the companies or management's, benchmarks. So these are a few things which I wanted to deliberate. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Satyendra. I think very insightful. I think for me, my key takeaway was that I completely agree that even if it's the first project, it has to be ROI driven. Okay,
Yes.
It will ensure that there is accountability pegged to the project. It will ensure that there is a time sensitivity and accelerated motivation to complete the project on time, and ROI should be there. Key drivers for ROI, I think today there is a cost of compliance, and like for example in pharma, the previous speaker Pradyumna spoke about CFR 21 Part 11 or validation compliance. there is a cost attached to it. And without digitalization, if you really want to have a manual process, it's possible to have a manual, documentation or validation process also. But the cost of that manual compliance is fairly high, and the possibility of a gap there is also fairly high, which exposes the entire business when there is an FD audit. Similarly, coming to Arun's industry, which is food and beverage, there also there is a Food Safety Act, or for that matter, Marico. There is a personal product, which is skincare product, hair care product. There has to be traceability, which is compulsory by regulatory mandates, right? And a huge amount of data, if I really want to keep a manual record from a traceability product genealogy perspective, is not possible. Same with perhaps fertilizer, because it's a subsidized product and there are certain regulatory frameworks in terms of product compliance, as well as the stack emission, because it's a heavy industry, chemical industry. The stack emission data has to be regulated, and that cannot be done without digitalization. Having said that, compliance is an easy one to pick. The hidden capacity utilization, the consistency of quality, the optimization of rework, these are typical drivers, ROI calculation drivers which we deploy. And I must say here that PTC and GreenWave has a very strong framework for calculating ROI. And if any one of your projects are today facing a roadblock because of ROI calculation issues, we would be happy to extend our services towards that. All right. So Ekta, I think we have exceeded the time by 12 minutes. Can we have 10 minutes more for Q&A and then wrap up?
Yes, Arup, of course, there are a few questions that I saw in the chat
Yeah,
box.
I saw those questions as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So I will turn to Ram first. Ram, there's a question for you. The question is that you touched upon the concept of safety with the truck turnaround and the TITO system which you've implemented. Can you elaborate further on that?
So I think it is just one aspect of, how. So largely, I think the previous speaker also talked about. So one is compliance, second is safety. So it is very specific to what we have at NER plant, since our, the space that we have here is very, very less. And also we have to maximize volumes here because of the kind of, income tax benefits that we have here. We at all the times are stretched for maximizing our volumes. And it was very, very difficult for us earlier to actually track down trucks. I mean, which truck is waiting, which truck has to be prioritized, because we cannot keep a lot of inventory inside. So what has happened is now there is single version of truth. I mean, earlier what used to happen was there was a lot of documentation happening in terms of truck is whether it is with department 1, whether it is with department 2, whether it is stuck at supply chain or quality, or whether it is stuck at gate, whether it is because of unloading is not happening properly, or whether the quality parameters are not meeting. So now what has happened is we know where exactly the problem is, and we have been able to establish certain benchmarks in terms of which department needs to accelerate or which department needs to do this activity in what time. So owing to which what has happened is we are at any point of time, we are having a dashboarding in terms of what amount of trucks are there inside, in which zones they are there, and whether they are exceeding their limit in terms of being unloaded and all. And then there is a trigger in process wherein if at all it goes beyond the limit, the concerned person or concerned department is tracked back and that person has to fast track it. So that in a nutshell is what we are doing, and it has helped the process and also the safety bit.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much, Ram. I think, and I'll just add to that, when you have a sort of a deterministic turnaround for your truck in and truck out, then the possibility of a queuing of truck and perhaps, either inside the plant or outside the plant is largely minimized or optimized or eliminated. And if you've been to the Marico plant, as you said, that they have only 4 acres between the two plants and it's a vertical plant, and the movement for trucks, the movement area is also fairly limited. It's not like a refinery, which is like, acres of land and the truck has the liberty to move at its own pace. So that basically ensures that, there is no, accident, or there is no sort of a collision with the truck truck could be carrying a liquid or a solid, or maybe in their case, it's not inflammable. In refinery case, they carry an inflammable, substance inside. And hence this deterministic turnaround time for the truck, and also traffic lighting, traffic guidance system of the truck, which is also an integral part of the system, helps avoid any untoward safety incidences. Okay, thanks, Ram. There's a second question which is for Anjan. Anjan, you are being requested to give some examples of digital twin where and for what kind of equipments. So, for example, maybe your reactor or maybe your dryer, or what kind of equipments you have implemented digital twins, and what exactly is the digital twin doing for you?
Yeah, actually, digital twins are we have made twins for a particular asset which is physical, but in digital platform, its parameters are taken, and by which those parameters we are controlling that particular asset, like in our PNR reactor. So in reactor, we are maintaining the pressure, then temperature, and the level. So we are taking up those parameters to the digital platform, and we are calling it a digital twin for that particular asset. Another example is dryer. For dryer, it will be the inlet temperature, outlet temperature, and the retention time. All those things are being taken up in the digital platform, so that we can understand what is the performance of that particular asset, and we are calling it a digital twin. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, and then just to add on to that, perhaps a contention can be that, for a dryer or a PNR, like a reactor, you can have the same visibility in the DCS as well.
Yes,
What
yes.
this digital twin is over and above the DCS giving to Anjan and team is that, for example, maybe, before the dryer, there could be a granulator. From the granulator, the, product is coming to a dryer, and after the dryer, it is going to maybe the cooling conveyor. Now, and before the cooling conveyor, there is a vibro shifter, which basically particle size separation distribution is done, where the right size particle is sent onto the cooling conveyor, the fines are put onto the fine hopper, and the oversized particles are put onto a pulverizer, and from the pulverizer it goes to the fine hopper again and get added back onto the granulator. So that's typically at a very high level the process overflow. Now, what they have been able to do is that for the dryer digital twin, they are also able to visualize the parameters of the upstream and the downstream asset on the same digital twin. Okay, so that they understand that if my dryer may be going right at this point in time, but by looking at the upstream or downstream asset parameter going off the threshold, they can actually sort of immediately identify that what could be possibly going wrong in the dryer or in the upstream or the downstream asset, and take the corrective action. And we have also done something called a correlated alarms. So typically, we are moving towards from a single device centric alarm to a multiple device correlated alarms, which will basically alert the operator. And this is where Anjan was saying that they're trying to capture the experience of the operator. An experienced operator perhaps would look at 4 or 5 alarms, and then he would be able to find out that which is the alarm he needs to work on. Okay, that experience is now being sort of digitalized into the intelligence of the system, where the system itself will throw a correlated alarm and will also direct the decision for the correction at the right aspect of the asset. Okay, so this is typically what we're doing. There is another question on aluminum smelter application, specifically in the maintenance domain. I think in the maintenance domain, we have not worked so far in the aluminum smelter, but in the maintenance domain, asset fault prediction for all rotating assets with CBM sensors is a very, very discussed and exploited topic today. Indorama again, ITC again, I know they're looking at implementing CBM sensors, harnessing that data, and then trying to do 2-3 things really. One is the asset fault prediction that given the current running condition, what is the likelihood of a bearing fault to happen, by what time it will happen. The second is the prediction of a remaining useful life of the sub-assembly of the asset. So for example, by when I should change the bearing, by when I should do the greasing of the bearing. So it is typically done from the online machine data as well as the OEM activity-based data, which are there in the OEM manual. These two are combined, correlated, and a prediction is done for both the asset fault as well as the remaining useful life of the asset part. So that's on the maintenance part. Now, may I come back to each one of the panel speakers and sort of give them request them to give us one key takeaway from the entire discussion for the entire audience to create sort of a bucket list or a checklist of if they want to do digitalization today, what are the 3, 4, 5 things that they need to really take care of. Arun, to start with you again.
Yeah, so I think it's a great, very lively afternoon, and no better way to spend a Friday afternoon than exchanging ideas. So as far as I'm concerned, the key takeaway is number one, that everybody agrees that there is, like you said, digitalization is not a nice to have, but a need to have. Having said that, the roadmap would be digitization. Like Pradyumna said, first you got to make sure your assets are digitized. Then it is digitalization. So the data that comes from this digitization is then fed on to a level of analytics, matrices to give the ROI that Mr. Satyendra Dwivedi talked about. The matrices have to be clear. So digitalization will help you in that. And then you get on to the next level of digital transformation, where these insights are put on to an AI model or a digital twin, which helps you look at the process. So these are the 3 key steps. And I think every organization, wherever they must do a self-assessment of where they are in this journey, and then identify the business cases. Truck turnaround time might work for Ram. It's something else for the other. So look at your use cases and then have this technology roadmap in place. Also a people roadmap where you're building the capability and technology and the culture of your organization. So I think that is my broad takeaway from this entire 190 minutes that we spent today.
Fantastic, Arun. So I think Dr. Parab has dropped out. He had an important assignment to attend to. So let me go to Ram. Ram, your takeaway.
Yeah, very quickly, I think so. It's about, just converging the digitalization and transformation parallel lines into one common line. And those have to walk hand in hand, and then to create an early win for the team so that the conviction in the project remains. And finally, what Mr. Satyendra Dwivedi also said, I think quantifying into monetary benefits, because money is one currency which everybody understands uniformly. So I think these are the 3 things. One is convergence, second is creating early wins, and third is quantifying in terms of monetary terms.
Thanks a lot, Ram. Thank you so much. Anjan, if I can come to you.
Yeah. So for me also same thing, first thing should be the target, fixing of target like ROI. And to achieve that, we have to change our culture and organizational culture. That is the 2 things actually my take out from this meeting.
Thank you so much. Let me come to Pradyumna. Sorry, Sangram. Your.
Yeah, digitalization is a mandatory process, as everybody has discussed, but it should not be at the cost of disturbing any manufacturing process, which is bread and butter for any manufacturing industry. Apart from that, we should also focus on change management, making the data available to all core users, and getting input from them to improve your digitalization platform also. And integration with other software such as SAP and other digital platforms should be also done in right manner, so that user can have a single platform to get all the data for any decision making process. As other speaker told, that we should not be too much aggressive in deciding ROI, because that will cost for definitely, if you will expect much in first phase from this industry for automation, then the other that your project may be in soup, and your next digitalization project may get affected, because what we have decided to use this industry port platform for our day-to-day production meeting. We'll discuss each and every notification and alert and analytics thrown by this digital platform in our day-to-day production meeting. and whatever action taken after that against that particular notification, that has to be recorded, and ROI need to be derived from those actions. You cannot have a from a digital platform. It is very difficult to define your ROI unless and until you have a right set of SOP to define that ROI. And account person may define it in a different way, and maintenance person may define it in a different way. Yeah. So that single set of norms should be defined to define a ROI in a particular project. That definitely going to make our project successful, or any project successful, digitalization project successful.
Thank you. Sangram, you brought out two very important points. As a matter of fact, it leads me to a question which is there on the chat box. Risk assessment and management of change, etc., not considered while implementation of digitalization project. This should be aligned with the ROI process. I completely agree. And as Sangram said, that a digitalization project should not be so aggressive or so inclusive that it should hamper your running production process in the plant. So we need to be very careful while integrating with the machines or bringing in a change that should not slow down your existing throughput of the plant. The whole objective is to make sure that you manufacture more, or you make more with less, and not you make less with the additional investment of digitalization. So very well put forward. Let me go to Mr. Pradmanya now. Pradmanya, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway from this is, first, educate site on the used case and ROI with a good set of project. Second, select right set of people to work on this project. Select right set of process which will give you ROI. Then bridge the gap while implementation faster and quicker, so that that will be exciting journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Satyendra, your final take.
My takeaway is that now digitization is not a nice to have, it is now need to have. And second important thing is, which I only mentioned, is that many cases, I am not generalizing it, but in many cases, it directly adds to the bottom line. That, many cases. So even I have experienced that 1% variation which I reduce in the products, my next month my 1% bottom line increased. So that happens, and that is the reality. So this is my takeaway.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, for you brought out the case of excess giveaway, OE. Yeah. So excess giveaway and OE are two very important aspects. With both these gentlemen, Arun and Ram, they have realized real time, real life, and we are still working with them to fine tune that to the extent possible. Indorama also has got a bagging operation where they are struggling with, or they have a scope for improvement of the excess giveaway going forward. Navdeep, your take, and maybe your vote of thanks followed by Ekta's vote of thanks, and then we can conclude.
Sure. I think my key takeaway from this very insightful conversation was we need to identify the right problem to attack. I think every other speaker has mentioned about this, and everything really flows from that. Technology for technology's sake is not the way to go. We need to identify the right set of problems. From there, we identify how do we adopt a particular solution to that, and then calculate the ROI basis, as Mr. Dwivedi was explaining. It can really make a difference for an organization's bottom line if we select the right business case, if we align the right people, and if we provide them the right tools to go about solving that problem. So that's the key takeaway for me. And going forward, thank you everyone for participating in this very insightful session. Thanks to Arup for organizing, and Ekta for getting everyone together on the same platform. And thank you to all the speakers, Arun, Pradyuman, Mr. Anjan, Mr. Ram, Mr. Dwivedi, Mr. Sangram, and Mr. Parab as well. So hope to interact with all of you a lot more. And if you are currently looking at projects on digitalization, some of you are already working with us. Do reach out to me or Arun in the course of time, and we can take this on.
So before we hand it over to Ekta, I just have only one closing comment. I'm not, though we do digitalization projects, I'm not a very great fan of digital roundtables for one reason. Typically in a physical roundtable, after such an invigorating discussion, you would have had a very chilling, refreshing bottle of beer in front of all of us, right? That's one thing which we cannot do in a digital forum like this. My apologies for that, but we promise that we will come back to the physical forum very soon, and we will definitely say cheers to each other.
Yes. Thank you so much, Arup and Navdeep. So on a closing note, of course, I would like to thank all the speakers for taking out your precious time on Friday noon and making this panel wonderful. Thank you, Arup, for wonderfully moderating the session. And of course, not missing our lovely audience again. Thank you so much for taking out your time. We shall be sharing the entire session's video with a thank you note to each one of you. Also, we would be reaching out to you on behalf of Greenwave and PTC to conduct some interesting one-on-one brainstorm session about their interesting solutions that they have spoken about. So on that note, thank you so much once again, everyone. Stay safe and have a great weekend ahead. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.